So in our view, great would be when everyone can find the best place to put their money to work to whatever cause they want. It could be investing, it could be protecting their family, it could be long-term, it could be non-profit, it could be helping a local business. Today in the world, there is Google to find information, right? There's Amazon to find products. But what about financial opportunities? There is no one place to find financial opportunities. We want to be able to create that for the world, where anyone who's looking to put their money to work has a place to put their money to work. And anybody who's looking for help in building whatever business or growing whatever they want to grow is able to meet these people who are looking to put their money to work.
Welcome to Analyse Asia, the premier podcast dedicated to dissecting the pulse of business, technology, and media in Asia. I am Bernard Leong. What is the future of wealth management as software is eating the world? With me today, Caesar Sengupta, CEO and co-founder of Arta Finance. Since the last time we spoke, you were still in Google, and now you are an entrepreneur. How are you doing?
Bernard, I'm doing well, surviving. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Yeah, so what was the inspiration of deciding to finally be a startup founder?
It's funny. It's been something I've thought about for a very, very long time. In fact, the funny thing was my original intention in joining Google was to find a group of great people, work for a couple of years, learn a few of the basics, and then leave and start a company. The funny thing was I found the right set of people, but Google just kept giving me such amazing opportunities one after the other that we together as a group got to build many products, Chromebooks, Google Pay, Google Files, a whole set of different products over the course of our time there. And the same set of people actually left together with me, and we've all started Arta Finance.
Wow.
So it's been something I think that's been in the making for a good 20 years. And finally, the timing was right, the situation was right, and we were able to go.
Well, you have an illustrious career working with Google, and I think you used to work with Sundar Pichai, the current CEO of Google, going from just product management all the way to taking over the entire product stack to enable the next billion, right? What are the lessons that you can share about your career journey to my younger audience out there?
I've been incredibly fortunate in life on a number of counts, but the area that I consider myself most fortunate is about people. As I mentioned, I joined Google to find an amazing group of people that I could, learn from, hang out with, and just basically build great stuff together with. I was reporting into Sundar way in 2007, and the team that he had formed around him was exactly this kind of a set of people. So biggest lesson I learned was find an amazing group of people, hold on to them with everything you can, and try to make sure you're worthy of their respect, worthy of their wanting to have you be part of that group. And that's sort of been something that actually served me incredibly well over the last 20 odd years.
So that comes to the main subject of the day. I want to talk about Arta Finance and the Digital Family Office with you. So maybe to start, can you describe kind of the total market opportunity for wealth management business, and also what is the inspiration behind Arta Finance, and so that you can capture that total opportunity?
Yeah. So look, the wealth management business can be cut many ways. It's a trillions and trillions of, hundreds of trillions dollar worth opportunity. But let me focus on a particular category that has largely been ignored for a while, and I think isn't very well served, which is what we call sort of the professional affluent category, right? And this is the largest, highest growing category. It's essentially, think about professionals, most people like us, who kind of weren't born rich, but we worked hard, we were fortunate in life, we had the right education, and over our course of life, we've created wealth. And these people tend to have wealth from anywhere between $1 million in net worth to, 10, 20, 25 million. If you just take a subset of that, 1 to 5 million, or roughly 2 to 5 million, 2 to 6 million, there are about 600 million people in the world who fall into that category, and $280 trillion of wealth in them.
Wow.
So this is a massive category. But the interesting part is this audience has not really been very well served by anyone, because you only get to, become or get all the facilities from a private bank once you get above this. Some private banks may take somebody with 5 million, but really, in order to be able to provide them with the right kind of service, it requires a much higher wealth limit. And very quickly, as most of us realize, regular banking and just savings accounts and, doing some brokerage, buying and selling of stock is not really the right way to be growing your wealth. And so that's essentially the category that we are targeting. And it's a category that is us. That's the life that we lived.
So you're building something for yourself.
We are building something for ourselves. And that's how it came about. As we were growing through the ranks at Google, as we were gaining more wealth, we would talk to each other and we would keep finding out things from each other. And at some point, it felt like, wow, there are all these financial superpowers in the world that we just don't know about.
That's
right? How do we find out more about this? How do we get access? And then some of us started working with private banks or, started using private banks and suddenly realized, wow, there's a quantum leap from, E-Trade and Robinhood and buying and selling your stocks to like suddenly getting private banking. And the sophistication of the tools, the insight and the knowledge and the access to products is just a quantum step, above anything else we had. But we also realized that, it was, an extremely services manual kind of a system. You work through great advice, but everything done on paper, everything done sort of in advice. And as technologists, we were like, wait, this can be so much better, right? Why can't I look at the choices of the products and the funds in front of me? Why can't I make decisions looking at the data, right? Why do I have to talk to so many people? And why does it have to be so slow? And the second thought was, hey, if we apply technology to this space, we can take these incredible, powerful financial superpowers and bring them to millions more people. So at some point, we used to keep debating this. And then, during COVID, we started talking to each other and realized that the timing was just right. A lot of the technology, machine learning, AI were starting to get mature enough to the point where you could take existing financial knowledge and just start democratizing it. So that's essentially what drove us to create this.
So then what is the vision and mission of Arta Finance and how does it align with the trends that you talk about?
Yeah. So our mission is to democratize private banking or to democratize family offices, right? Like exactly the same things that a private bank or a family office would do for an ultra wealthy. We want to start people off with much earlier in their lives, right? Rather than waiting for, many of your audience will create amazing companies. They will go on to lead phenomenal companies. I mean, Sundar is now the CEO of Alphabet, but Sundar was not born the CEO of Alphabet. He's a professional who at some point was someone like us, right? And we would want to capture people like that and get them and help them when they're in their 30s, right? Way earlier in their lives, but when you can still have a massive, meaningful difference. Look, in the world of finance, there is one very big secret. It's called compounding. It's actually not a secret. It's like, it's a superpower, right?
That's right.
So the earlier you can get started with compounding, the more powerful it is. So that's at some level like democratize these financial superpowers, educate our users, give them access to those products and capabilities, and just help them through the course of their lives as they're busy focusing on their careers and their families. Arta is there as their financial helper.
How does Arta Finance view, say, the traditional family office, right? With business models is typically very tied predominantly to private banking.
So, we think they're very valuable services. They provide incredible service to their clients. It's just that they're able to serve very few clients, right? And so that's, I think, the key thing that we are trying to solve, which is take many of the stuff that they've done and then scale it using technology. So today, Arta is essentially a full-fledged private bank. You can come in, you can see all the products, you can learn, you can get access to alternative assets, you can get access to sophisticated public market strategies. Of course, you can buy and sell stock. You can get access to a number of family office services. We're live in the US right now, so it's very focused on those kinds of services, tax and estate, tax strategies using life insurance, ways to use structured products and options to create the right financial outcomes for yourself. Essentially everything a private bank would do, but in a very digital forward manner. Obviously, there are experts in case you want to talk to somebody about which private equity fund to invest in. You can talk to our folks, but you also have the product in front of you on the web, on your phone, where you and your spouse, your friends can look at things, decide whether it works for you, and make an informed decision on how you want to progress your life.
So if I read it correctly, you are currently disrupting, or maybe you come to a particular group of professionals that is actually underserved and couldn't get into private banking. So if I were to ask, say, a normal two professionals, they're married, they work for like top tech companies, then they just basically, can they just register with you?
Yeah.
With all the standard KYC, well, some say standard KYC, know your customer, because I have an audience who may not know what KYC means in the language of banking, right?
Yeah. So we're open to accredited investors right now. These are regulatory constraints. And so accredited investors in the US is $250,000 a year in annual, 300,000 as joint, or $1 million in net assets. In Singapore, the limits are slightly different because in Sing dollars, it's at $300,000 and $2 million in liquid in assets. But it's something that, as you know, once two professionals get married, they're accredited investors very quickly. Arta is free to join. There are no minimum limits. So people can just open an account, go to Arta Finance, and once you're in, you can see all the powerful capabilities that a private bank would offer you. But now that's in the tip of your fingers.
So you have a very strong digital advanced team, I would say, from all ex-Googlers or maybe from the other tech companies as well. So how does technology being brought into, say, in such a traditional field like banking? I'm sure that there are different things that you want to jump over, the fence, and then you need to figure out how to even integrate with regulatory requirements. I'm sure that that's not an easy feat.
It's not an easy feat, and it's taken us, a couple of years to build this out. But, we're fortunate to have an incredibly capable team. One of my co-founders led Google Pay globally as the engineering leader.
Yeah.
Google Pay, as you know, has hundreds of millions of users around the world in 80 countries. Extremely regulated space. Payments tends to be very regulated. KYC, AML, these are
That's right.
things that we've done for many, many years. Another of my co-founders helped build Gmail and was engineering lead for Gmail for many years, and then was engineering lead at YouTube for many years. So these are people who've built systems at scale that have to have high trust, high privacy, high integrity. I led all fintech at Google for a number of years, including our payments infrastructure, all money flowing through it for any commercial reasons. So the space we're very familiar with, of how to deal with the regulatory requirements, the responsibility of dealing with money. And so we've had to build this out. We've built most of it out at this point. We have a number of users who are actively using it. There are a number of people who've moved all their assets in. All of our assets are already on Arta. So, it's taken us a while, but it's exciting to finally have a digital platform that is integrated across alternative assets, public markets, family office services, and together gives you an experience that, is kind of like the rest of your life. I mean, you order food on your phone, you make payments on your phone. Why shouldn't you be dealing with the wealth on your phone?
So while you are building that, generative AI came along, right? And it's now like a new electricity. It's going to change the way how computing is going to happen. So any thoughts on, say, in the AI space, how is it being brought into a space like wealth management?
So, what's really funny is Arta started in 2021. And at that point, we didn't want to call ourselves an AI company because AI among the sophisticated people was sort of like this thing that people use for marketing terms, right?
That's right.
We were machine learning and we were heavily using machine learning. And a lot of our strategies use quant methodologies, so quant finance methodologies that have existed in the finance world for a while. But then using machine learning, we were democratizing it and bringing those to millions of people. Then, of course, generative AI comes along and now suddenly everybody's an AI company. Yeah. So I joke that we were an AI company before AI became sexy. We're looking at using large language models in a number of ways. I think still very early. We experimented with fine-tuning our own models. Again, we're in the financial space, so the quality of the data matters a lot. Explainability to our users matters a lot. One of the interesting things about generative AI is it's kind of magic, right?
Yeah.
And it's got this vagueness of sometimes right, sometimes not. So you've got to be very, very confident of the data that's going in, making sure people understand the value, and also being able to explain. So I don't have anything specific to share right now. We've got a bunch of interesting demos and things that we're going, but in the next few months, we're hoping to launch and bring a lot of our LLM stuff out.
I'm sure, because I think it's still pretty young, and a lot that we're currently seeing revolves around text. I'm sure there are things like video and even vision where generative AI is pretty important on. But I think maybe think about, say, a few years back, just before generative AI, there's also personalized AI recommender systems. Do you all take into account to personalize for the customers that you serve?
We would definitely will be. At this point, to be honest, we are not doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Our focus over the last 2 years was really building out the platform. So today the product is, helps you learn, helps you get access, helps you be able to operationalize stuff in a very easy way. I think over the next few months, we're going to get much more into the recommendation systems. I'm actually personally very excited because, I was into collaborative filtering and personalized recommendations like 20 years back at grad school. And so it's exciting to see some of those systems actually being working now, the theory at that point.
Agree with you, because I used to basically help companies in Southeast Asia when I was with Amazon to actually deal with the recommendation services engines for their e-commerce, video streaming, and everything else. One interesting part is in wealth management, typically in private banking, there is a customer relations person. It's like the Spock. He would go to the family, maybe to individuals, yourself maybe and your wife, and then they would talk about all the products they have. I guess now you have to move from that particular paradigm into a digital first paradigm. How do you all think about that type of situations where these particular customers may have certain special needs? Like I remember when I was with Singapore Post, I handled their high-end mail service, and I have someone's father bringing the son in and say that, this is a special mailbox for you, and you're supposed to sign this, and then the mail will come to this place, and then every now and then you just come and collect, and it's done in a concierge manner. It's actually one of the really unspoken service, but it's a very interesting. Cool. Yeah. So how would you think about taking that particular old way of doing things and now bringing to this new world?
Yeah. I actually don't think of it as old or new. It's funny. We don't think of ourselves as disruptors because we are offering a product to a set of people who have not been served. So to start out with, the way we think about our platform is we're actually flipping how you use digital and human. We put sort of a very digital forward platform in front of users, but at any point of time they want to talk to anyone, we have a whole set of experts at Arta that they can talk to. If, for example, you're trying to decide between which public market strategy that Arta offers would be the right allocation for that pool of money, you can talk to someone on our side. So it's this interesting combination of people and technology that I think is most interesting. But I think what's most interesting for us is we've historically always been a team that is very ecosystem oriented. When we built Chromebooks, we built an entire ecosystem of OEMs, app providers that targeted the education space. And together, not only did we create value for Google, but also huge value for many of our OEM partners. Similarly, Google Pay, it started off as a consumer product. But today, like all the banks, all the many financial companies actually have an entire ecosystem around this. So with Arta, we've started with this direct model, but we're quickly evolving into the ecosystem model, where if, for example, there's a financial advisor who has a set of families that they are helping, supporting for a while, they can use Arta. They get access to more products. They're able to offer a digital experience to their end users and to their clients, and are able to add that unique value-added service that really a experienced financial advisor can provide. So in the US, we're talking to a few financial providers who are trying this out in that kind of a manner. But over the course of this year, we will actually see many more financial advisors doing this. Interestingly, we're soon to launch in Singapore. We have in-principle approval. We're working on a bunch of stuff to be able to launch. But at a global level, we're actually talking to a number of banks too, because obviously there are certain segments and markets where Arta will provide the service directly to users. But the world is a very large place. As I said, 600 million people. We can't go to 600 million people without help from partners. So in a number of countries, we are talking to large banks, financial institutions about taking all of Arta's platform, essentially in a white label manner, and being able to bring them to their existing customers or to new customers. And then, the bank in that country provides financial advisors who understand the people in that country, the needs of that people in that country or that particular segment. And we are able to bring the technology, the financial products in a highly streamlined manner.
So I see that essentially you're also open to private banks using the Arta Finance as an offering to the customers as well.
Oh, we're talking to a number of private banks right now.
Okay.
Because for the interesting part is, as we've come into this private banking industry or the family office industry, this desire to serve everyone has been present in everyone. Look, none of the private banks or the family offices want to exclude people. Everybody wants more customers. The challenge is without technology, you can't do it profitably. So as a business, there hasn't been a way before this to be able to reach those people. So, we now have created that way. So we're talking to a number of partners to help them reach many, many more people.
So what is the one thing you know now about the intersection of technology and wealth management business that very few do that?
There's actually a few things. I think depending on the country, there are specific financial sort of, nuggets of wisdom that you would hear, which we just didn't know. And once you know, and then you see that being instantiated with technology, you can just see the immense power. I know you have a number of listeners in the US. A lot of people in the US don't know that you can use permanent life insurance. These are like not the regular life insurance that most of us are used to, but this category of life insurance that's much higher premiums. But essentially, they're designed in many ways to be very, very tax efficient investment vehicles. So anything you put inside them immediately gets shielded from tax, right? Many people did not know this. Another example that we are just launching in the US is called direct indexing. So, the regular people buy ETFs, but the ultra rich don't buy the ETFs. They buy all the components of the ETFs, and they have systems that buy and sell correlated assets to generate tax losses, right? We can do this now for a much, much smaller amount. The private banks have offered this to their clients for hundreds, if not millions of dollars. We can do this for a few tens of thousands of dollars because of technology, because of scale, use of machine learning. And so these are amazing secrets. One of the things in Singapore that a lot of people are not aware of, or outside the US, and I know a lot of your listeners are outside the US, is as soon as you hold US stocks, you are exposed to US estate taxes.
That's right.
Right? And nobody's helped solve this. So we're trying to figure out how we can help. The private banks obviously will help their clients. They will set up stuff for them.
Correct.
Family offices will set up stuff for them. But what about the rest of us?
I think the current poor man's way of doing is to use Irish domicile funds to run the same playbook, but you still take a certain amount of taxation off. So I think if there's a more direct approach, I think that will actually work, right?
So there are many, many secrets like this. The power of alternative assets, right? Like most people in our category just put all their money in public markets. But the reality is the private markets now are bigger than public markets in value, right? Aggregated.
Right.
And there's a lot of categories within that. There's private equity, there's private credit, there's real estate, there's growth funds, there's venture capital. And if you look at an endowment, or you look at really savvy investors like GIC and others, you'll see that a significant portion of their allocation goes into private markets. And typically it's not happened, or it's not been exposed to the regular people because they haven't known about it. They haven't had access. So today, when someone comes to Arta, they can see some of the top tier funds that you would get from any of the private banks. But more interestingly, we brought down the minimums. So instead of having to put $1 million in, you can commit to $100,000, right? So then over 4 or 5 years, you're basically putting only $20,000 a year into these vehicles. And so now you can start doing things that, just were not possible for many people like us in the past.
So does it sound like when Vanguard did the SPY ETF for customers, they lower the fees? The way I would think of Arta is you're trying to allowing access to more people in order for these type of private banking service that used to be only limited to a few.
That's absolutely right.
So one of the things that's most exciting is you have a lot of investors behind Arta Finance. Would you want to talk about that? I couldn't get into the round, so.
I am sorry. I would have loved to have had you in the round. Unfortunately, our angel round got done very, very fast. And funnily enough, we actually did not set out to raise an angel round. As we wanted to leave Google in a very orderly manner because we love Google. We loved what we had built. We have very good relationships. And so we kind of start talking to people over a period of months. And, I left 6 months after I told people I'm leaving, right? And so we slowly were leaving it. As we would have these farewell conversations with people and say, okay, it's time for us to graduate and go do something outside without sort of the mothership, they would be like, how can we help you? And not only did this happen with a number of Google leaders like Eric or Sundar or others, but it also happened with our partners. One of our angel investors is the CEO of MasterCard. And he was somebody we had worked with for many years when I was doing payments. And so there are CEOs of banks who are retired now, who are angels. We have 140 angels over who invested in Arta. But interestingly, all of them are in many ways friends, mentors, deep partners. But what's interesting is for most of them, this mission really resonated because by and large, all of them are professionals. They were all people like us, right?
So they're your first customers, eh?
They were, I mean, right now they all have their family offices. They are using Arta. But interestingly, like we would love to, like, for each of them, they were like, we wish there was an Arta when we were in our 30s. So that was sort of what ended up crystallizing that round. And then, of course, Peak 15, which used to be Sequoia, Southeast Asia, India, led our seed round, and Ribbit and Go2 came in and did our Series A. So we were very fortunate to have great investors.
So I think one of the things about getting startup is always the ups and downs, but I want to just focus on what are the highlights so far for Arta Finance, and what are some of the like challenges that you didn't expect but you showed up and then you overcome it.
Yeah. I would say in terms of highlights, the biggest highlights have been sort of being able to bring the product to people. So we were in stealth for about a year and a half while we were still sort of figuring things out, building out the infrastructure. And so the first round when we came out, we just talked about, and the waitlist grew on its own. It was a very significant number of people who joined the waitlist. And for us, it was very gratifying because as a new player in financial services, it takes a while to build up that reputation. And the fact that there were a lot of people who were willing to join the waitlist was very heartening. So that was a very big highlight. Opening up the product in November was very exciting. Talking to users, press. Right now, we are going and doing wealthcare boot camps in many companies, in many funds. Those are amazing conversations because at the end, every conversation, you meet these amazing people who are very successful in life who'll say like, thank you, I just learned 2 or 3 new things and that's going to help me in my life. And, at the end of the day, why do we all exist? To try to feel that validation in life. I think the biggest challenges, to be honest, was that the technology build out in this turned out to be a lot more complicated than we had thought. There's a lot of hardcore infrastructural, regulatory compliance work that has to be put in place before you can even take a single dollar, right? As a wealth manager, KYC, AML, money movement, very basic things have to work perfectly, right? All the compliance pieces, regulatory pieces, security. So there's actually an enormous amount of build out. And so, sometimes people ask me a question like, why hasn't this been done before? Now I know why. It takes a lot of effort, very, very strong engineering team. The vast majority of our team are engineers, very senior engineers from, not just Google, but Facebook, Amazon, Meta, incredible backgrounds, a number from banks who've joined us, financial institutions who've joined us. So it took us a while to get the system built out. It's also a highly regulated industry. So we are licensed in the US. We've got an in-principle approval in Singapore. We are a licensed insurance agent in multiple states. So and each of these takes like 6, 9, 12 months in many cases. So all of that setup took us a long time. I would say I was overly optimistic about how fast we'd be able to do it, but I think that is something that all of us entrepreneurs probably suffer a little bit from. But at this point, it's great that it took us maybe 6 to 9 extra months to do, but we're now ready and we're fully functioning.
I think one of the key things for high net worth individuals using private bankers is the question of trust. When it comes to very traditional family offices, they have this very fear about putting their data digitally. I think you have a world-class engineering team, right? So the question is, how do you assure them like things like cybersecurity, the safeguard of their data? Because you talk about the compliance side, and I'm sure that is actually what is the things that you were trying to build to get to that scale in order to launch it.
So in terms of cybersecurity, look, we've taken some of the lessons we've learned at Google on how to build very, very secure, privacy-preserving systems. As I said, we were running Google Pay. We built Google Pay from scratch. One of my colleagues was built Gmail. Arguably, you have more private data in Gmail than anywhere else, right? And it's probably more secure in many ways. But also our exposure to working with the financial industry meant that we could bring in the best practices from banks too. So we've essentially put in all the cybersecurity practices, the systems, the infrastructure that you would get at a big tech and at a big bank, right? And combine those two together. I think this question sometimes comes up with family offices, but I would say not the most modern ones, because the reality is, in many ways, if you've taken the right decisions and you're choosing the right vendors, you were at Amazon, the amount of resources that a tech company pours into cybersecurity far outweighs anything any individual family office or large family
agree on
office
that.
can even
Yep.
can invest, right? So in a way, it's the same reason why we don't put cash under our mattress and we trust the banks with the cash. It's the same way we can run it. One other very important point is our broker dealer and our custodian, which is a very key partner for us and somebody who we worked with very closely and supported us over the last couple of years, is Bank of New York Mellon. Bank of New York Mellon is the largest custodian in the world. They have 46, 44 trillion in assets. Many countries have all their
right.
wealth on them. So we chose to work with them and, obviously for their sophistication, but to a great extent because of the trust. We felt like this is a place where our money would be safe and our users' money would be safe. Last and not the least, like all my money is on Arta, right? So, our belief, and this is again something that comes from the tech companies, is if you're not using your own product, how can you ask anyone else to do it?
Yes. So I think now you're based in the US, but you also have some operations that's going to start in Asia Pacific, maybe from Singapore and maybe stretching out the rest. How do you think about managing the diverse financial regulatory space on there? And is it going to be like region by region, or maybe you also have to wait for maybe they're having things like maturity of digital banking licenses as well?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I think we're a dual headquartered company in Singapore and the US. I and three of the other co-founders live in Singapore, and five of our co-founders live there. The leadership team is split across Singapore and Asia. Our engineering team is split across the two. So we have operations from a building perspective across both markets. And, Singapore is a very key hub for us. In the long run, as we're expanding, we will have to deal with the regulatory and the compliance requirements country by country, and we are set up for that. So a lot of the technology, as you know, can be fairly consistent across terms of enforcements and in terms of securities, but the specifics of the rules matter. So we are staffed up as a compliance team there. We have a compliance team here. We have the right regulatory, and as we go market to market, in some markets, in most markets actually, we'll work with partners who are locally, local banks are regulated, have a deep relationship. So that sort of helps us scale faster and better and get to a worldwide distribution without having to necessarily ourselves single-handedly go solve every market. We hope to work with partners deeply to be able to do that.
So my traditional closing question then, what does great look like for Arta Finance?
So I think great, if you take a long view, say let's 20 years or so, a lot of what we are building doesn't need to be limited just to accredited investors. It should be available to every single person. So in our view, great would be when everyone can find the best place to put their money to work to whatever cause they want. It could be investing, it could be protecting their family, it could be long-term, it could be nonprofit, it could be helping a local business. Today in the world, there is Google to find information, right? There's Amazon to find products. But what about financial opportunities? There is no one place to find financial opportunities. We want to be able to create that for the world, where anyone who's looking to put their money to work has a place to put their money to work. And anybody who's looking for help in building whatever business or growing whatever they want to grow is able to meet these people who are looking to put their money to work.
Wow, Caesar, it seems like you're taking your next billion opportunity from Google now to the next billion opportunity to worldwide to enable finance for everyone.
We are working very hard. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Many thanks for coming on the show. So in closing, I have two quick questions. One, any recommendations that have inspired you recently?
I tend to read a lot. I'll give an interesting recommendation, which is, I think there's power to reading fiction, because fiction helps you create different worlds and live in different worlds in your mind and be able to navigate between those. So, unlike a lot of people who say read fiction, non-fiction, I actually would say read a lot of fiction. Science fiction, fantasy tends to be incredible places where you can situate yourself and think about what would I have done in this world, right? Where the laws of physics change.
That's right.
That I find incredibly exciting and something that I found helped me a lot in my life. The second one I would say is something that, I could do a lot better, but we try as a company to do a lot of, is just to be grateful. We're all incredibly lucky to be just alive, and healthy, and to have this opportunity. Every day I look out and I see myself living and being part of this beautiful city, beautiful country, and I feel extremely fortunate. We get to work on things that we love, with people we like. And so that that expression of gratitude is something that we try to take very seriously within the company. And that's something also, I think is a lesson I've learned in life.
Okay, so how do my audience find you? Arta Finance.
So I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter. Twitter is @CaesarS, LinkedIn Caesar-S. On artafinance.com, you can reach us all the time.
And you have a podcast too, right?
We recently started a podcast called Live Long and Prosper. A lot of our members, we realized, are looking for advice from people who are further along in their careers. I'm going to come to you soon to come on to this. We've had a number of, it's very US focused right now. So we have a number of guests who are CPOs of companies. We have the CPO of Pinterest, the previous CPO of Slack. She's a partner at IVP now. CEOs of Cardlytics, CEO of Coda, and just asking them questions about, what have they learned in life and what would they have done differently 20 years back if they had all the wisdom they have now at that time.
That's very, very interesting. So for all of you, you can find our podcast in YouTube, everywhere else now. And of course, sign up for our newsletter. And we have the newsletter also in LinkedIn as well. So Caesar, many thanks for coming on the show. And let's continue the talk.
Absolutely, Bernard. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.